Quick Tech Talk with Michael Anderson and Daniel Sloan.
Hey folks, welcome to the Quick Tech Talk. Today we are joined by my co-host Daniel Sloan and guest Rebecca Fernandez, who is the co-founder of Human Capital Blockchain. Today we will discuss how blockchain technology can close the gender gap and transform human resources. Thank you, Daniel and Rebecca, for joining us today.
Always, thank you.
Yeah. So Rebecca, I'd love to hear more about just some of the things you're working on. And so to start things off, I'd love to know a little bit more about what are some of the current technology challenges that exist within human resources organizations, and how can blockchain help?
Thanks, Michael, for the question. It's a really very good question, and I would like to respond to the question with two streams. So one from the functional perspective, another one from the technical or system technical perspective. So in the HR as a concept, we have from the functional perspective a lot of, let's say, issues or difficulties or challenges at the moment that are, for example, human biases. We have unequal opportunities, we have gender bias, we have trust and confidentiality of the records, issues with the universal identity. And then also for the system technical perspective, we don't have, in the HR industry, we lack with a global HR centralized system, so a data management system, despite the fact that a lot of big names claim to have one. Based on my experience, that's not the case. We always need to go through different type of systems to get data from employees for payroll benefits. We copy and paste data in the current technology, as we know, and that's also not very nice thing to do, and therefore in the HR industry is a very big challenge. The traceability of personal experience or skills, capabilities of a person's life or professional experience is also a very big one, because again, we copy and paste. We have a CV, I can be lying in there. We have LinkedIn that could, give us a little bit more practicality in there, but again, I can be lying. It's a copy and paste, so we miss the rest in there as well. We have also that, therefore, the system, that actually the current technology systems are biased as well. So we have the huge problem of human bias. And actually the current technology, I can name, for example, artificial intelligence is also biases, because algorithm is biases as well. So I can go on and on, but the technology piece in the HR industry is a challenge one. Yes.
Thank you for that high-level overview. That's a lot to dig into.
No, absolutely. Let's try to hone in a little bit. One of the things that I picked up, Rebecca, and I've seen this in many companies myself, is these disparate systems that you're talking about, where information lives here. And I do like how you kind of illuminated and talked about how even the AIs can have those biases. So let's talk about how can blockchain kind of solve some of those issues and close those gaps of connecting these systems, and then removing some of these biases.
Well, I think one of the key features of blockchain as an essence is to have transparency and also traceability, security, so enforce transparency and trust. So that's one of the key features of blockchain. So therefore, if we have that type of benefits using blockchain, in essence, the human bias will be reduced, at least. I'm not sure it's eliminated, because we know that some human bias are unconscious, but at least will be helping to close the breach. Then, of course, if we leave our decision-making type of process in hands of humans, us, and we are human biased, and therefore the systems and the current technology that we have is also human biased, I think we are not fixing the problem. We are putting more challenge through the problems, I would say. We need to go to the root cause. And for example, last week, Kamala Harris has been elected or appointed to be the VP in America, and she talks in her speech about systemic racism, and that's a huge thing that we are seeing. So I guess COVID and this pandemic has shown us that we have a lot of problems, and therefore our system is a huge one, right? The way we are organized, the way we do compliance, the way our system works, they are not good enough. The people in countries around the world out of education, and therefore our technology also is biases, or we there's something that is not right. So blockchain can hugely solve all these problems.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's and those are really important problems to be solving. So a lot of our audience works in corporate or entrepreneurial fashions, and so one big frustration that I see with those folks and with clients is that when hiring someone, they can be great on paper and they can be great in their interviews, but after you hire them and sign the paperwork, they end up being not such a great fit for the company. Is there a way that blockchain can help mitigate this risk of making a bad hire?
Yes, that's a really good question. Actually, it sadly happened very often, I would say, in the HR world. That, as mentioned before, because we copy and paste and we have a piece of paper that I could be lying in there. There is no proof of my skills or capabilities, which I think is what we should embrace, and how blockchain is actually the beauty of blockchain, to hire a person based on the skills and capabilities rather than in a copy of a CV, which a name, a surname that could point to different country, and actually a picture that I can feel that she's a woman, she cannot do a good job, for example, right? So yes, sadly that happens. Also because we know that, again, the current system that we have, we don't have a link between system and also organizations. So we don't have any system at the moment that can pass on HR data from one company to another, or even to one system to another. That doesn't exist. So this is what we need to focus on. And I think for us, and especially because we are working very heavily in this, we are building the solution. We have actually a feature called Gap Tracer, which is specifically focusing on the gap. Is something that is needed. And I cannot see, honestly, another technology that can be better for the HR industry than blockchain.
Yeah. Good point.
No, that's amazing. And, I've been in, IT staffing since 1995, got fortunate enough out of the Marine Corps to get into that industry. And so I've done worked with a lot of HR departments. And one thing that I think blockchain can also solve the problem I'd like you to talk about a little bit is, you're a company and you found a good diversity hire. You found somebody you really want, but your process is notoriously so. You are going from different systems and this and that, and it takes you 8 weeks to get that person through the process, and you lost them. And so I've heard companies talk about, it's like, well, we'd love to hire a woman for this position, but every time we get one, we lose them. Talk to me about how technology, in particular, and maybe your solution can help solve that problem. Because if you do have companies that do want to hire women, do want to close that gender gap, but they just can't do it because they literally can't get them hired fast enough. Is that a problem that you guys can solve as well?
Yes, actually, we are envisioning. So I can give you a few data in here, because I love to give. Always when I talk about this, I like to give real facts.
Yeah.
And it is really true what you said, Daniel, because in a recruitment process on average could take 30 days just for one hire. And we are envisioning, and actually the cost per hire average is around $4,192 per hire. So we are envisioning with our human capital blockchain solution that we can reduce 36% of the recruitment process. So we do the process more efficient. And that means that on average, a company can save per hire, 1,486 dollars per hire. So imagine if you multiply by times 5, times 10, times 100. So the return of investment is massive. Then, therefore, we have the higher stage when we do the offer. That's where our gap tracer is coming on, because it's where all the gender gaps are more present. Because it's in the higher stage where you can give this favor of salaries or pay gaps between men and women for any reason. We don't know why. So that's where our gap tracer is coming from, and we can capture that. So we also talk about justice in our solution as well.
I like it.
And then we have also the onboarding process, because onboarding process, and I can give you another data in there. According to Gallup, which I guess everyone knows, only 12% of employees strongly agree that their organization does a great job on onboarding process. So 88% of employees around the world, on average, they believe that the onboarding process is not good. A bad onboarding process, it has a really big impact for employee experience and actually to lose that person, because the onboarding process is normally takes around 1 week. In some companies, it's 90 days. In another companies, it's 1 year, because it's just purely administration tasks. So blockchain can easily solve that problem. We don't have to go through this painful exercise to gather all the data, paperwork, and therefore some paperwork is coming from us. We need to type it in. So the human error is always huge.
Right.
So yes, with blockchain, we can actually eliminate that, because the verification and identification is also a big piece in blockchain, and therefore improving onboarding process can improve 82% of employee retention. So again, the profit and the benefit for the company is huge.
I agree. That's a major benefit. We're not only talking about the efficiency, but also the money that they'll save in having a more efficient process. No, that's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. The numbers you mentioned are quite mind-blowing, I think. When you put data and numbers to it, we all know it's a problem. Like you said, it's very common in industry, but when you put those numbers to it, I think it's much more convicting.
Yes.
Yeah. So Rebecca, one thing you've mentioned throughout this conversation, I'd love to dig into just a little bit more, is a global HR database management system. And that to me seems like a great fit for blockchain. So what would the impact of creating that have on the HR industry?
Yes, thanks for the question. Of course, as mentioned before, for me, based on my experience in HR technology for many years, I cannot think in another system that could works in perfect for HR. I think blockchain, as in essence, is a human-centric type of technology. So it's the perfect one for HR. Then, as mentioned before, to integrate HR data is very hard for the industry. We cannot pass data from system to system, and for company that doesn't exist, because there is no global HR database management system. So if we can build that ecosystem that is a blockchain based for the HR, it could have multiple benefits, from efficient benefits, but also for traceability, transparency, trust. And yeah, we, as mentioned, we can have all these skills and capabilities and in the blockchain, so we can base our decisions in skills and capabilities. Because one of the issues that we have when I've been in managing HR technology implementations, and I've been managing big names like SAP, Cornerstone, so I really know what I'm talking about, is that, for example, when you need to implement the technology, you always need to build a skills and capability matrix. With the blockchain, that would then be needed, because actually the essence of the blockchain is that, right? So we will have all of that, the identification, verification, the biases can be removed, and we will bring just, I guess, common sense in the HR industry and the HR technology, which we know that the HR technologies need to be ahead of the game in comparison with other industries in terms of technology. So I think right now we have the perfect opportunity to have one is really, I think, fit for purpose.
That's really well said. And you mentioned this earlier, but having a CV or a resume, just a single piece of paper, as identifying everything you've done and all the skills you had, I think is very lacking. And oftentimes it's still a bit of a black box in terms of what are somebody's actual true capabilities and what's their historical contribution to organizations, and how they performed in those. And so I think this is long overdue, but also very exciting that you're bringing this to the forefront of this industry, and working towards a solution that's going to help everyone.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you for saying that, because I always like to say that blockchain creates the possibility to reorganize ourselves and be a lot more people-centric, be more collaborative. With blockchain, organizational processes will be more transparent. The systematic inequalities will be removed. We can do more efficient transactions. So I cannot think a better system for human resources, if I'm very honest, honestly.
Yeah. And HR is ripe for disruption. I mean, I think the Gallup poll, where you just talked about the onboarding, that's one aspect that's inefficient. Why is the recruiting business such a lucrative business? Companies are willing to pay 25, 30% of the base salary to get a good person. Why can't the people in HR get those good people? Because of all these problems and these inefficiencies. And you actually need a human capital detective, if you will, running down the references. Did they really get this degree? I mean, you think of all the manual work that goes into getting a really good hire, because you don't want to pay that person, get them on, and after 60 days go, man, this person sucks. Next. Yeah. You'd rather pay a company to do all that. So your solution actually can almost decentralize that a little bit and disintermediary. You might be putting some recruiting companies out of business. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, that's exactly that, Daniel, because as you mentioned, this is happening in the HR world all the time. Mm-hmm. So the companies spend a huge amount of money, and also time. The time spent is money equals money. And it is all about admin tasks and going to gathering all the data, making sure that it's right. And therefore, some of the documents that the HR professional receives are a piece of paper again. So they need to be inputted into the system, manual work. So also when we need to do the reporting, there is also a huge inaccurate of data. So we never can rely in HR data, when therefore is the function is the most important that a company has, because if there is no employees, there is no clients. I'm sorry about that, but it's the reality. And right now we have a massive, amazing solution, which is blockchain, that can help massively with all of that. So, and also therefore with the gender gap, which is a huge hot topic right now. And we have designed this gap tracer, which can actually basically detect if your company is gender parity or is gender unequal. So you need to do something better, and I think it's good for everything, for the business and the humanity as a general concept.
Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Rebecca, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. The wheels in my mind are spinning about all the possibilities, and really excited about the future of integrating blockchain and HR, and see that beautiful marriage of those two things. Really creating a better professional world for everyone.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much. I have also enjoyed our conversation. And as you mentioned, we just need to base our decision in skills and capabilities, what the person could bring to the table. No, if I'm Rebecca Fernandez, I'm from Spain and I'm blonde or dark hair. But it doesn't matter for our humanity society. That's something that we need to raise.
Agreed. I think you're shining a bright spotlight on the problem, and that's typically how these things get solved. And now, just to echo what Michael said, thank you so much for coming on. My wheels are spinning as well. This is very exciting. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, Daniel, as well. Thank you both. It was amazing. Thanks.
Quick Tech Talk with Michael Anderson and Daniel Sloan.